And now the story of a cord blood transfusion, a rare one, perhaps the first one of its kind in India, that saved a 9-year-old girl. 6 months after the transfusion, she is starting a new healthy chapter in her life.
My name is Thamirabarani. I'm 9 years old. What you are going to see is a true story, my story. When I was born, my parents were very happy. Then one day, I fell ill.
Senthil Kumar and Sarojini were told Thamirabarani was thalassemia major, a genetic disorder. The red blood cells in her body are hemoglobin deficit. Thamirabarani had to receive blood transfusions every month. The painful treatment meant she could not cope with school. It was then the parents were told that if they conceived a healthy child, there is hope. The blood from the umbilical cord of the newborn could cure Thamirabarani. Senthil and Sarojini conceived a second child, but realized they could not afford the cord blood transfusion. Help came from a cord blood bank.
As part of LifeCell, we've offered this service free of cost to the family, so the family can actually benefit from the value of cord blood banking.
The bank stored the blood collected at the birth of the second child until Thamirabarani was well enough to receive the transfusion.
Now, what we have done here in the case of Thamirabarani is that these the cord blood stem cells from a kid brother, which actually were free of thalassemia, were transfused into the sister who had thalassemia. And now the sister, Thamirabarani, is actually cured of this disease and has been symptom-free for the past 6 months.
Thamirabarani was reborn.
My brother's cord blood saved me, or I wouldn't be alive.
6 months later, she is a normal 9-year-old. Her painful past fading in memory. The siblings bonded in more ways than one. In Chennai, Sam Daniel, NDTV.
And for a lot more on all of that, we're now being joined by Dr. V.K. Khanna, a pediatrician and in charge of the thalassemia unit at the Gangaram Hospital here in Delhi. Joining us from Chennai is Dr. Ajit Kumar, Chief Scientific Officer of LifeCell International, which of course, as we just heard, was one of the companies involved with this. And here in the Delhi studio, we have with us Mrs. Poonam Anand, who has a 21-year-old son who's suffering from thalassemia. And before I come to you, let me just come to you, Dr. Khanna, first. The procedure that was followed in this particular case, is it quite unusual to have stem cells? Cord blood essentially means presumably stem cells were involved in this. Is that perhaps the best way to treat thalassemia?
Yeah, that's a sort of cure for thalassemia. See, most of the time people undergo bone marrow transplant. We have very little experience with cord blood transplantation, and I must congratulate Dr. Thamirabarani for this success.
So the bone marrow transplants that are normally done are one-off. But for a final cure, you do need to use stem cells. That's what you're saying.
Yeah, see, basically the cells are, stem cells are primitive cells. They're different sources. Like they can be derived from bone marrow, they can be derived from cord blood or from the peripheral blood. Conventionally, bone marrow transplant is done, but recently there is a lot of interest in cord blood transplantation also. Okay,
if I can just turn to you, Dr. Ajit Kumar. Is this something that you see is going to be the trend going forward? Now, obviously, in other parts of the world, like the United States, there's lots and lots of controversy over the use of stem cells at all. Is this something which you now see as a major trend going forward?
Yeah, I think, if you consider that these are actually somatic stem cells or adult stem cells, as opposed to being embryonic, I think they have a lot of potential. And the fact that these cord blood stem cells are immunologically naive, it's a very good source. I mean, the cord blood itself is a very good source of these stem cells, and I'm sure that as the awareness increases, more and more people will come to store their kids or the babies' cord blood, and that will actually contribute to all these treatments.
Okay, ma'am, you of course had a 21-year-old son who's been dealing with thalassemia all his life. For those who don't know it, what exactly are the symptoms? What do you have to go through?
When the child is around 6 to 8 months old, the hemoglobin goes down and the child becomes pale, and then a special test is done, HbA2, and then we come to know that the child is thalassemia major. So being a genetic disorder, so you have to deal with it by regular blood transfusions, and as the child grows old,
that's what you were saying, a couple of units every
fortnightly. For a child who's 21 years old or 75 kgs in weight. So it's painful, traumatic, and it is physically, mentally and monetarily torturous for the parents. And at the same time, the story doesn't end with blood transfusions. It's the iron accumulation. Iron gets accumulated because you are not allowing your own bone marrow to function. So for removing the iron, children are to be given iron chelators, and these chelators, they are expensive, and the chelators which were available before, and which are being used, they are to be given by subcutaneously. So the needle is to be there in the body of the child for 8 hours. So the whole night.
It's a very traumatic disease. When you heard about a treatment like this, and in this case of course they conceived a second child specifically to cure the child, what thoughts go through your mind when you hear of treatments like this?
It's really nice, and the couples who are having one thalassemic child and are planning a family, they can really go in for this, but we need to have more of the data and things like that.
Okay, Dr. Khanna, do you see any ethical issues? I know this happens abroad a lot of people raise ethical questions on having a second child, if you're not specifically planning to have a second child, and using the cord blood for that to help the first one. Do you see any ethical dilemma in this or no?
There should not be any, actually speaking. See, anyway, you are storing the cord blood, which is otherwise not used. But see, the cord blood, we have very little experience with cord blood transplantation so far, and then the success rate of cord blood transplantation so far has not been that good as with the conventional bone marrow transplantation.
Okay, so this is a newer technique.
About the ethical issue, see, if I tell you something, some people come forward and say that, no, when they come for prenatal diagnosis, at that stage they want that the baby has got HLA matching or not. That means they are tailor-making a baby for the first affected child. That is not correct, I feel. But if the second baby is, fit for using his cord blood or is fit for giving bone marrow for the transplantation, I think there should not be any ethical issue in that.
Final thoughts from me, Dr. Ajit Kumar. The use of cord blood, you think, is also ethically a bit easier or simpler or better than the use of embryonic stem cells? Those, of course, have far more ethical questions attached to them.
Yeah, I mean, it's clearly this is a tissue. The umbilical cord itself is normally discarded after delivery. And so, this is a source of stem cells which can easily be taken up. I mean, I think we've taken and then stored and then preserved and basically used for cord blood transplantation. It's different from the use of embryonic stem cells in that in the case of embryonic stem cells, there is the destruction of the embryo and all the ethical considerations that come into play. Right. But here, I think, since they are essentially adult stem cells which normally are discarded, I think it's a lot easier to use these. Yeah.
All right, sir. Well, thank you so much, Dr. Khanna, Dr. Ajit Kumar, and Poonam. Thank you all so much for being with us today, and we wish your son all the best. And
thank you.
Let's hope procedures like this continue to move forward, and we have more and more medical advances. For now.